I'm Marilyn de Guzman with Investing News Network. I'm speaking with Todd Ross, Managing Director and CEO of Nordic Nickel, about the battery metals market and the supply landscape in Europe. Hello, Todd.
Hi, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for joining us today.
It's good to be here.
Great. So let's start our conversation with just an introduction of Nordic Nickel and some of the highlights for the investor community that you'd like them to know.
Great. Thanks, Marilyn. Yeah, look, Nordic Nickel is a newly listed nickel exploration company focused on the central Lapland greenstone belt of northern Finland. We have two assets, our Pulu project, where we're currently exploring at the moment, and we also have a second project called the Meninkijoki 3 project. Both of these projects, we're looking for what we call Sakatti-style analogues, which is high-grade massive sulfides, nickel sulfides. We know in the central Lapland greenstone belt that we typically see disseminated nickel as a marker for high-grade massive sulfides. Based on historical drilling that we had on the Hottenvara exploration prospect where we're currently drilling right now, we had a lot of disseminated nickel and some high-grade massive sulfides contained within that. We've commenced a 22,000 metre drilling campaign on that same area now, and what we're seeing is a continuation of the mineralisation below the extent of the original drilling. So we're seeing the continuation of the disseminated nickel and some massive sulfides at depth. But also we've recently released a drone mag survey where we've indicated that there's at least another 9 of these potentially Hottenvara style mineralisations throughout our full 240 square kilometre land package. So it's a really exciting time. Yeah, Nordic Nickel is a young company, but we're getting a lot of attention already from some of the majors who are looking to secure their supply of nickel sulfides in Europe in particular.
Right. So let's talk a bit about that. Your projects are located in Finland. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of what it's the operating environment in Finland, the infrastructure that's there, what investors need to know about that location?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Finland's a fantastic place to operate. It's certainly got all of the ingredients to be a major player in the battery value chain, and the country itself is positioning itself to become a major player in the critical minerals and battery value chain in Europe. It's a highly prospective area for nickel, copper, cobalt. There's been a number of major discoveries in recent years, and they've also got a highly skilled workforce. They've got the infrastructure in place, which is critical for being able to deliver nickel into the market, in particular in our situation. So they've got all of Europe's nickel refining and smelting capacity exists within Finland and Norway, and there's a number of gigafactories being built throughout Finland. And in Europe in general. Around 20% of all of the gigafactories being built in Europe are being built in the Nordic region. So we're looking to be able to tap into that full value chain.
Right. So the European Union in general, they've embarked on this really massive strategy to increase their supply of critical minerals that we will need for the electrification efforts and the energy decarbonization. So how do you see your company playing into like the role that your company will play into this whole dynamic, and what you're seeing in terms of what the European Union and the Europe is doing in this regard?
Yeah, look, I mean, Europe is set to become the second largest battery manufacturing hub outside of China. As I mentioned, there's a number of gigafactories being constructed at the moment throughout Europe, around 20% of those in the Nordic region. The realisation of recent years is that there's obviously a massive shortage of critical minerals to be able to go into those the construction of those gigafactories and the battery value chain in particular. So the EU has recently launched the EU Critical Minerals Act. So it's a discussion that's been on the table for a couple of years. The acceleration came after the Inflation Reduction Act was launched in the US, and obviously the recognition that there's a real major issue coming for the supply of critical minerals. So the EU has implemented certain initiatives to kick off the EU Critical Minerals Act. The first being that 10% of all raw materials need to be secured in Europe. So there's a number of incentives that they're working on at the moment about how to potentially be able to encourage investment in Europe in particular. Finland, as the next level, is also looking at its own incentives, as I mentioned before, about trying to position itself to be a major player in Europe as well for the battery value chain. So, look, there's lots of incentives being discussed at the moment. There's a lot of talk about how we can potentially speed up the permitting process, and also being able to provide funding support for exploration of nickel and critical minerals in Europe as well. So look, I think it's a bit of a watch this space situation at the moment. There's certainly a lot of attention. There's a lot of realization that the main critical minerals, the likes of lithium, copper, nickel, are all going to be a big issue in the next few years, and they're looking to try and position themselves to be able to secure that supply.
Mm-hmm. It's still, as you mentioned, all these incentives are being laid out for the industry specifically, I guess, to enable this supply chain for the region. It starts with exploration, right? And you mentioned, what are the steps that you're seeing in terms of building up that, because it takes a while to bring a mine into production, from exploration into production. So are you seeing, what are some of the strategies in terms of speeding that up? I think you've mentioned the permitting. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, look, it does come down to the speed of permitting, access to resources, to drill rigs, to skilled labour, all of those things. The support that we're getting in Finland is really around the existing industry that's already there. There's obviously a highly qualified and very experienced exploration industry and mining industry that already exists. There's a lot of majors that are looking around this area at the moment. In particular, the likes of BHP and Rio and First Quantum are all in the area looking for nickel and copper assets. So there's a lot of support coming in at the moment. It's really about how quickly can that translate into dollars in the ground, essentially, and exploring projects that have got potentially district scale. I think that's where our huge advantage is. We were one of the early movers in this area. We've got a land package on our Pulu project of 240 square kilometres, and at the moment we're only exploring 5 square kilometres of that land package. Although we've recently done a drone mag survey, which has identified through the high resolution mag survey that there's probably another 9 at least similar targets to what we've got in the Hot and Vara license where we're currently exploring at the moment. And as I mentioned, the current drilling campaign is only it's 22,000 metres, so it's quite an extensive drilling campaign for 12 months, but it's only on 2% of our total land holding. And I think that's really what's attracted the attention of some of these majors as well, in particular BHP, who selected Nordic Nickel to participate in the inaugural BHP Explore program, where they're supporting junior companies like us to help accelerate that exploration program. And they're the sort of things that I think we're going to see more of coming forward, because it's a difficult industry. Obviously, there's a massive supply shortage coming, in particular for nickel. There haven't been any major discoveries in recent years other than the Sakatti deposit that was discovered by Anglo American not far from us in the central Lapland greenstone belt of northern Finland. But there hasn't been a lot of money spent, because raising exploration dollars is always tricky. And when the risk's off and the market isn't being able to support new exploration projects, it's very difficult for new discoveries to be made. And that's what some of the majors are recognising, that we need to look at a different way of this model.
In terms of the battery metals market and the looming shortage of this important these critical metals, the solution obviously I think will require a multi-sector effort from across the value chain, from manufacturing, distribution, and to the end user. What are you hearing from them, from these sectors, in terms of how they plan to address this looming shortage?
Well, I think they're coming further upstream. So the downstream players are recognizing that it's no longer possible for them to just be ready to buy whatever the critical minerals are at the time that they're ready for it. They need to look at partnering with companies like us early on, where they're securing their supply for 5-10 years down the track. There's a huge incentive now to be able to do that. We're seeing that happening in the lithium space. We're certainly hearing very similar things in the nickel space now, and I think that's where we're very excited about the fact that we have this first mover advantage in a district scale province where we've wrapped it up with 240 square kilometres of landholding. We're in a unique position that we're able to take advantage of that as these majors are looking to try and secure long-term supply.
Right. So, what can the investor community expect from Nordic Nickel for 2023?
Look, 2023 is a really exciting year for Nordic Nickel. As I mentioned, we've only listed less than a year ago, so we'll turn one in a couple of weeks' time. We've got a number of runs on the board already. The first 6 months of our life as a listed company was about looking at and planning our exploration program for this year. And there's a lot of geophysics work that we needed to do initially to be able to get ourselves set up for identifying all of those targets. We're now executing that plan. We have the 22,000 metre drill campaign well and truly underway, and we've accelerated that drill campaign with putting 2 rigs on initially. So initially the plan was to have 1 rig for 12 months. Now we have that 1 rig continuing on for that 12 months, but we had a second rig for the first 3 months as well. We're starting to get assay results through, and we'll be releasing those in the next week or so. And we're going to see continual news flow coming from our exploration program now. I think what's exciting for investors is the initial drilling campaign has not only confirmed the vertical continuity of the deposit. So we're seeing a lot more mineralization below the surface of the existing historical drilling that was there, that was done by Outokumpu. But we've also now, with this regional mag survey that we've done, identified another 9 of these lookalikes throughout the belts that we're looking forward to getting involved in and drilling over the next couple of years to come. So it's a lot of news flow. It's exciting. It's a really good industry to be in. Certainly well supported in Finland, and we think that the time is coming for nickel as well.
Yeah, certainly, it's the right metal, the right time, and the right location.
Absolutely, that's right.
Yeah, so we'll looking forward to hearing more about the assay results as you release them.
Fantastic. Yep. Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you for joining us today, Todd.
Good to chat to you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
And thanks for watching. Join us again next time for another engaging conversation on CEO Insights.